Hello, welcome to 8 Ways to Wellness, Discover the Dimensions for a Healthier You, the Financial Well-Being Dimension. Hello, my name is Carol Brolick, and I'm the Human Development and Relationships Educator in Washington County, Wisconsin. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, has identified 8 dimensions of wellness to focus on to optimize health. The University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension has developed this module based on the work of SAMHSA, along with other research-based materials. Before we get started, I'd like to ask everyone a question and want you to think to yourselves. So if someone gave you $100, what would you do with it? So I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. So I'm imagining that if we were together in person, I would have quite a few different answers to that question. Some of you may have been thinking, well, I'm going to save that for a vacation coming up. I'm going to pay off some bills. I'm going to save that for retirement, or maybe even a split of all three and kind of putting those things into different buckets or areas for yourself, right? So with these various responses, notice they're not all the same. Each of us really has choices when it comes to how we spend or save our money. And many times it relates to what we value as a person or a family. So when our values are reflected in our money choices and our money choices reflect our values, we are more likely to have a higher satisfaction in our financial well-being. Today, our objectives are to understand how financial behavior impacts overall well-being, identify your personal values related to your financial behaviors, and learn strategies and resources to improve your financial well-being. In contrast to poor health, wellness is a state of living a healthy lifestyle. It's an ongoing process and lifelong journey, so not a one-time event. Wellness is often categorized into several interconnected dimensions. It's a holistic integration of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. This slide illustrates the 8 different dimensions of wellness when we think about this working together as a group. There needs to be a balance among all these dimensions in order to live your life fully. However, the balance will look very different for each person depending upon their individual beliefs, priorities, and aspirations. The goal is to find a personal harmony with the dimensions that are most authentic for you. You can't reach a state of wellness passively. It requires active awareness, acceptance, and commitment through choices you make every day, no matter how small. So for the purpose of our discussion today, we are going to focus on the financial dimensions of wellness, which is the satisfaction with current and future financial situations. Financial wellness includes an awareness of day-to-day expenses, anticipation of unexpected expenses, intentionally setting goals, and as a result, the freedom to make financial choices that match your values and what is most important to you and your family. So how can we help ourselves prevent, reduce, and or manage that financial stress? Let's take a look at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, their definition of financial well-being. Their definition is a state of being wherein a person can fully meet current and ongoing financial obligations, can feel secure in their financial future, and is able to make choices that allow enjoyment of life. So the factors that contribute to a feeling of well-being include the following here on this pie chart. So first of all, successfully managing day-to-day expenses. This is happening, but as it said, it's daily, things to be thinking about. So knowing what money is coming in and out of the household. It may or may not involve a written budget if people keep track in their head or are using other tracking systems such as apps on your phone. Another way that can help contribute to the feeling of financial well-being is planning ahead for those unexpected expenses. So having a plan for life's emergencies. This could involve having money in the bank, having an open line of credit on a credit card, having a family member to ask for help, carrying insurance for the various things in our life, such as home and auto, and many other ways to do that. So, but everyone needs some type of plan, again, what meets your needs for your family. Another contribution is having sound financial goals. This involves knowing what your goals are and creating a plan to progress towards those goals. It may or may not involve money. For example, a person can plan to go back to school in order to increase their future earning potential. The last contribution that we see here towards financial well-being is having freedom of choice. Everyone needs some kind of wiggle room and autonomy in their budget to spend on things that are important to them. The ability to afford wants was cited as the number one contributing factor to feeling good about your financial situation. So we basically want to make sure that we are able to meet our values and have some of the things that mean a lot to us as well as meeting our obligations that happen with our bills and so on. So I want you to think about where you are now in each of the 4 areas we have just described. Do you feel you have enough money each month to pay your bills? Do you feel your retirement is on track, or maybe on track with other types of money goals that you have? Do you feel you have choices on what to spend your money on? Have you been meaning to save to cover unexpected expenses? Or I want you to think about any shoulds or need tos that relate to your current situation as well. And you can see up on the slide that we have a variety of things that can kind of pop up under unexpected expenses. When a pet has an injury and you have a vet bill that's more than what you anticipated. So different things like that can come up. So now, after thinking about where you think you currently are, where would you like to grow? So what's one area you would like to grow in or put more focus on? I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. Would anyone feel comfortable sharing that? And actually, if you have someone with you, you could share that with a partner or someone within your family, where you would like to go. So for example, saving for unexpected expenses might be something you're thinking about, or tracking how much I'm spending eating out. Sometimes that one we tend to lose track of, and maybe starting or adjusting your retirement contribution, saving for a family vacation, or right now, what I'm anticipating is a change from a pay system, going from monthly to bi-weekly, which really does make a difference in how my plans have been from month to month. So next we'll take a look at some strategies. One strategy to help you think about your day-to-day expenses is to know and understand what money is coming in and out of your household. I would like you to think about your most recent purchase, whatever it might be. Maybe it was this morning, maybe it was last night, maybe it was 2 days ago. And just jot that down or keep it in your mind, okay, for later in this presentation. Budgeting and tracking spending is all about raising awareness for yourself. Sometimes we just get so busy with the day-to-day and what we're doing, we tend to put some of this aside. So it's really about being more self-aware. So for example, as we look at the parts of every budget on this slide, we have on the left-hand side, the income, what's coming in. First off, we have our wages, and salaries, but also don't forget about other things like gifts or a windfall, which could be, inheritance or whatever that might be and what you might do with those things. But then also other resources such as your tax credits or, free and reduced school lunches, housing assistance, and other public benefits that can really help you move and push the remaining income from your wages to meet those other obligations. Then on the other side, we have different kinds of expenses, right? The money that's going out of your household. So expenses can come in different forms. We have our fixed expenses, which are pretty much the same payment every month, like your rent or your mortgage payment. Then we also have flexible or variable kinds of expenses. So you're looking at things like grocery bills, medical bills, where it can be a certain amount, or you're pretty sure what that amount might be per month for your groceries, but it can flex up and down a little bit depending upon the season or special events, things like that. And also we have discretionary expenses. So discretionary expenses that you choose to purchase are those that you choose to purchase with dollars remaining after paying all those obligations and bills. It's real important to think about how you want to plan to spend those as part of your budget. So another way to think about our spending is that there are some must-dos and some nice-tos. Okay, so if you notice on the slide, the top two, the fixed and flexible, are the ones that we need to go ahead and pay because of the obligations with the bill. The discretionary is kind of the nice-tos, but without the nice-tos, sometimes it's a little not as fun, or you're not necessarily meeting those values. You want to try and incorporate and plan for those nice-tos to have success in your financial wellness as well. So now I want you to think about 2 slides ago, I asked you to write down your recent purchase, okay? What would you categorize this recent purchase as? A must-do or a nice-to? And what that means to your budget. So just think about that for a little bit and where that fits, okay? Questions to ask yourself to raise awareness then are, am I able to pay my day-to-day expenses? And do I know where my money is going? So if you're curious as to where your money is going, consider a way to track your spending that works for you. Examples might include saving receipts or writing down expenses, using a spreadsheet, an app on your phone. There's a lot of different ways that you can track your spending. Again, find what works for you, what's easiest, what makes sense for you, what you remember to do. All those, there's a whole different list, as you see on the slide, that you can choose from. Okay. So think about what has worked for you in the past. Maybe, again, life got a little too busy and you kind of stopped tracking. Maybe it's time to track again because you have a change happening. Like I mentioned, my monthly paychecks are now bi-weekly, so that's changing how I need to look at when those different bills do come through. So here we have another thing I want you to think about, and this really relates to the well-being piece of what we're talking about with financial well-being. If you are losing sleep more nights than not, your financial situation may be starting to affect your health. So this is that connection with our dimensions of wellness, right? So if you're losing sleep at night, waking up in the middle of the night and worried about paying bills, how are you going to pay bills? That's a sign that you may have this imbalance between expenses and income. Could be that you're carrying a higher credit balance than you would like. So how can we start reducing that balance? What are some strategies to do that? Start thinking about paying bills late. Again, might be a situation of thinking about income. Can we increase that income some way? Do you have some support and someone you could ask for support temporarily for this 1 month when you had a larger bill and pay back later? You know, there's different ways that you can approach this. Or another sign might be not able to save for emergencies or goals. So any of these might be signs that this balance is not happening between expenses and income. Locally, you may want to check into some resources as well if you feel you need some outside support. One website is debtadvice.org, where you can locate local resources and or consult with someone on a phone call. Some areas have local advocate agencies that will help with some finances, and there's also some consumer credit counseling services, and all of those are nationally accredited that you can look for help in those areas in your communities, counties, or across the state. So number 2, have a plan for unexpected expenses. There are many types of unexpected life events and life stage events that can impact your financial well-being. So these include things like an involuntary job loss, layoffs, marriage, divorce, having kids, caring for a parent, housing or transportation costs, a spouse or a partner's death. You know, all of those are very unexpected as far as, especially when they can occur. So I want you to consider some strategies to help plan for these unexpected events. So the first one is creating an emergency fund. So the suggested amount or time to think about is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Now, for some of us, that may seem a little daunting. So even the goal of having extra money, starting with a couple $100s, moving into, okay, I want to try to have at least a month extra, and just building on that. So really work with what is realistic for you at that time, and you can always add to. Maybe there's also, you want to have with those emergency funds, you want to make sure they're liquid, meaning they're accessible. The ability to withdraw from a savings account, for example, without any fees that are tied to that. But just remember, it can take some time to do this, and that's okay. The idea is really getting into a habit of saving what you can, even if it's, let's say, $25 a month or something like that, just to get started. Another plan, or part of the plan, might be working on to keep your good credit, or to improve your credit, rebuild that credit. So a credit card or open line of credit, such as a home equity loan, might be helpful for some to help with this. And if you do have some debts, make sure that they are being paid off as soon as possible. But just remember, anytime you borrow or use credit, it does add to monthly future expenses, because there will be that monthly payment to pay off that debt. So just be aware of that balance and what that means. Be sure to review your insurance coverage. So what kind do you have? How much is enough? Have enough to cover some of those expenses that might be incurred. For example, auto insurance, if you happen to get into an accident, home insurance or renter's insurance or property insurance, right? To cover the things that are unexpected, like from the weather, from a severe storm, and so on. And then the last one listed here is a support network. So again, be thinking about who in your circle of support, whether it's family, friends, extended family, that could provide some support, whether it's just emotional support, or possibly even some monetary support to borrow from as well. So be thinking about all your options as you go through and think about your unexpected events that would come up. So the third step is, you think about progress towards your goals. Are you finding room in your budget for some other things? So for example, are you finding room towards long-term savings for retirement? Maybe one of your goals is to purchase a home. Maybe you're wanting to save some money for your child's college education or a family vacation, or maybe you want to start your own business instead of working at a place of employment. No matter what you want to set as a goal, strong goals have some things in common. They say what you want, they say when you want it, and they say how you plan to get it. So once you know your goal or goals, you can decide how to move forward from there. So sometimes it is better just to save toward one goal at a time, so you're not stretched so thin. So you may want to prioritize those goals. So if you look at this timeline on the slide, you're going to see that from the left, we have a goal that might take a year. So maybe that's paying off some credit card debt. Kind of in the middle at 3 years, maybe it's saving up for a down payment on a new vehicle. And then way to the right, we have one that's a little bit larger, maybe for getting your own home. It may take quite a few years, maybe not all the way to 10 years, but if that's your goal, it is something that you can work towards. So basically, in your mind, think about what that goal is, and then how long that might take. Breaking it down to what a monthly payment might be, or a monthly savings amount to get towards that goal. So for more information on financial goal setting, check out some of these your money your goals booklets. Okay, and this is also by the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This one particularly showing in the slide has some great information on goal setting. And on the end of the slides, there is a list of resources that you'll be able to get to those websites. So goal setting, identify the things that really matter to you. Work toward a future that includes those things, track your progress, and then take pride in making life better for you and your family. Celebrate those milestones. If it's a 3-year goal, at 1 year, if you've made the progress you wanted to, celebrate that and acknowledge that as you move forward to the final goal. Saving is usually short term, and investing is usually long-term. So another part of reaching goal can be that saving or investing. Here's some helpful tips to make sure money does go into savings. So first of all, if you can contribute something from each paycheck, again, it makes it habit forming, and it's something that's a little bit easier to track, and you're less likely to forget to add that amount to savings. Making your saving automatic by with your employer, setting up automatic deposit from your paychecks. And some employers have the option where you can split that deposit. So put what you need to put into your checking account to pay your bills, but then a portion of that you can determine and designate to put into a savings account automatically, so that it's never, in my mind, never really missed, because it's always put in this other savings account. And then also think about other age-based options that might work for you. So for retirement, it could be 401k, 403bs, whatever that vehicle is for saving, or even children's college savings like EdVest and other 529 plans here in Wisconsin. Remember, everyone needs some wiggle room and autonomy in their budget to help spend on things that are important to them. So identifying our core values can help us make decisions about our financial choices. Values are not like morals. There's no right or wrong answer. However, values guide our decisions and actions, so they might feel right or wrong to us personally. When it comes to money and financial decisions, what feels right to us may not be right for someone else. The purpose of this diagram, as you're looking at this on the slide, is to get us thinking about the relationship between our values, beliefs, and actions. So for example, when we start on the outside, our behaviors. If your behavior is to check your balances, your monthly budget monthly, and that's something that you're good at and keep doing, that's pushing towards your core value. So as we work our way down, your skills might be that tracking skill, right? Using the tool that works for you. And then your attitude and beliefs are kind of thinking about, well, if I do this, there might be less stress and anxiety when I know where my finances are at. Not knowing might be the stressful piece for you. And then pushing to our core value, maybe just that wellness piece, and not to have so much anxiety and stress in your life. So I want you to think about 3 to 5 of your personal values, jot them down, write them down on a piece of paper if it helps you to list them. And you can finish this afterward as well, or pause this tape. Now I want you to consider, how do your values play a role in your finances? How do they play a role with other members in your families? Do you have the same values? Are there some differing values there? Do your values match your behaviors and contribute to your goals? So some examples might be a personal example that you might be thinking of. Well, family time is really important to me. So that's your core value. So is your behavior reflecting that? Are you regularly saving money every month for an annual family vacation? And that family vacation can be defined however it meets your financial needs. It could be a camping trip in a weekend. It could be a week-long vacation. It could be a day trip with family. Whatever fits your monetary needs and your budget. Your core value could be security is important to me. And you might be thinking, okay, am I regularly contributing to my emergency fund like we talked about earlier? If spontaneity is important to you, are you reserving money for those fun events and activities that come up on the spur of the moment, or during nice weather like in Wisconsin? It seems like there's a lot of activities you can do in the summertime in Wisconsin, right? And are you planning for that? So when those spontaneous ideas come about, you have the money to go ahead and do those things with your family. So I want you to think about, again, how this fits into your life and some of the examples that you could put to, so this makes sense and has meaning for you. So this next part is really a reflection of what you can put to use as far as what you heard today, some different tips and techniques, and how that relates to our pie chart that we've been talking about and getting to financial well-being. So I would like you to think about what's one area you would like to focus on a little bit more. Okay, remember we have the day-to-day expenses, the unexpected expenses, the freedom of choice, and financial goals. Again, you may want to pause here, jot things down, or continue your thoughts on this as far as what you want to do with this in the future. Here's an example of a chart you can just draw and think about with this pie chart, is there an action item that you can do to help meet the goals that you were thinking about? So, what's one thing you can do in the next week for your own financial well-being? Pick one of the areas. If you want to work on unexpected expenses, what's an action item that you could do? If you haven't set up an automatic deposit with your employer to have that split, maybe that's something that's easy and like it says, it's automatic and you can go ahead and do that. So think about what might work for you to create that action step and get yourself started in what you want to do to move towards your financial well-being. Here are some resources that I was mentioning that would be on a slide. So the first link up here is an extension financial website that has a lot of different resources and tips and websites that you can use, some strategies. Money Matters is actually an online course that you can take to learn more. And if you're interested, you can click on the link to talk to an extension educator that'd be more than willing to do a financial coaching session with you. You can locate one most likely in your county or region or area. The third link is where I shared the goals resource from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. There's also booklets to help talk about money, and that includes the goals when I was just talking about. And there's also a financial well-being toolkit, which has kind of a self-quiz if you're interested in doing something like that as well. So I want to thank you for joining us today for the 8 ways to wellness and focusing on our financial well-being today. Good luck, and we will hopefully see you at other future extension programs.